Hey guys, it's John here, back with another Switch 2 video. So it's been 3 weeks since the launch, and I've been busy playing a couple of games here and there, but I've been waiting. Finally, this came in. This is the microSD Express cards that I ordered. This is specifically the Lexar 1TB versions. Now, I was hoping to get this on release date alongside our Switch 2s for me and my wife. For some reason, Amazon just didn't give any update on these until just earlier last week, and I finally got them in my hands today. And these are pretty hard to get at the moment, especially if you want a 1TB version. I know people have been doing it on back order, but hopefully stock will stabilize in the coming months and everyone can get their hands on it. I did pay a pretty penny for these. This was about $180-ish each. Now, keep in mind, these prices will go down over time as storage naturally does, but for me, as someone who hosts a lot of game parties and has a huge collection, I definitely need the highest capacity I can get for my Switch 2s. So I'm going to get into the full unboxing of this, and then I'm going to test on the computer just to make sure that this is actually the microSD Express 1TB version. I know there's sometimes common scams on like Amazon and third-party sellers, so you definitely want to test to make sure your microSD is the one you receive. Alright, I'm going to unbox these now. Alright, in it, you will just find the microSD itself. Alright, so keep in mind, you guys will not find SD card adapter, so if you need one of those, this is not going to come in the box itself. Alright, taking a look at these guys, you can tell that they are the microSD Express because if you zoom in, if you look at it closely, you can see that there is a microSD EX right there, right under the terabyte, and that's how you can tell that these are microSD Express cards, right, from the denotation on the card itself. I have microSDs from the older generation. I have a SanDisk Extreme, a SanDisk Ultra, and then some random one from Micro Center. But as you can see, these three do not have the same indication as the microSD Express does, because there is this tiny EX symbol right there to indicate that is indeed microSD Express. Alright, so I do have extra SD card adapters, and these will work with PC or any other thing that's compatible with microSD Express. Now, I did plug into my computer just to check one thing, and that was mainly the storage, and as you guys can see, it is reporting 932 gigabytes, which is totally normal for a 1TB card. Now, I did try to stick it into Crystal Disk Smart just to test, but remember, you are bounded by the read and write of your SD card adapter, so these aren't the advertised numbers at all. This is just the limit of my computer. Remember, the advertised is read of 900 and write of 600. You will most likely see this on the Switch 2 with the performance that it'll provide to be able to load games. So don't think that just because what you're seeing on the computer, you think that it's wrong. That's just the limit of what I have right here. Alright, if we take a look at what's currently on my Switch 2 right now, I already have stuff downloaded, but as you can see, I'm already on less than 1 gigabyte of space right now. And just to kind of show you guys how much, even though I do think having about 240-ish gigs free at the start is good, as you can see, the more games you download, the more it's going to take up space. Like Mario Kart World already takes up almost 22 gigabytes. Tears of the Kingdom already takes up 20 gigabytes. Ultimate takes up 17 with the DLC, and as you keep going, I have a bunch of other games on here too with various degrees of storage. And even on Sarah's Switch, it's kind of the same story because we both share games with each other, and we have each other's pass enabled console. You can see she only has like 23 gigabytes as well, and we take up similar games, with the ones being at the top being the ones that are commonly first-party games. So a lot of you might be wondering, if you're coming from an original Switch, you can actually transfer only screenshots and some personal data from your micro SD cards itself. You simply would just insert this into your Switch 2. It'll actually prompt you for an update to unlock the SD card slot if that matters to you. But remember, you cannot play games off a normal micro SD card. You need the Express to be able to store and play. So keep that in mind. If you still have your original, you could still use it to transfer some stuff. Otherwise, you're going to have to buy a microSD Express. Alright, so we're back on the Switch 2. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert the microSD Express into the Switch 2. It is located right behind the stand in this little hole right here on the right side. So you want to insert it facing that way. Alright, and then once you're prompted in, you're actually going to get the update for it. Now, this is your first time, you'll only need to do this once, and you'll forever unlock the SD card slot. I have not done this yet for my 2 consoles, so I'm going to do it now. Just hit update, and it's going to do a system update. It's going to restart. It's really quick. Alright, and once it's done, you'll be able to go back to, and you should see the microSD Express card with about 931-ish gigabytes to use. So that's a sign that you have bought a correct microSD Express card, and it is reporting the space. And now you can move stuff between the systems. If you want to move stuff from your internal storage right now, or if I want to, I can move all the big games right now and free up like almost 100 gigabytes off my main storage. But what I'm going to do is do a little bit of cleanup, and then I want to see if I can install my game collection. Now, I have a good amount of games. I have a lot of games between me and her, so that we can mix and match and manage our virtual cards this way. But I also have a huge physical game collection. Alright, and for the games I'm going to be installing, here is my section of Switch games in my shelf right here. Oh boy. I'm not going to install all of these. I'm probably going to handpick the ones I know I'm going to play on the Switch 2. But at the very least, we've got maybe about over 50 games here. I also have some more up here as well. This is just some of the collector's editions of stuff and some foreign import games. So I might have some of these. Alright, here is one stack. And here is another stack. Alright, so I'm going to see how many of these games I can fit on my personal Nintendo Switch 2 with my whole physical collection and some of my digital collection. Alright, I got both the Switches here, just transferring some files over. First, from the system storage to the microSD, it's the games that I don't really play as often. I kind of want to keep core games on my internal storage, as well as apps, and then all the rest of the third-party games, and otherwise go into the microSD. And I feel like a lot of that is going to also be what I install from my physical collection as well. And just another hot tip, if you're moving games between your internal and SD card, make sure just to plug it in or put it in the dock. It actually goes a little bit faster instead of running out on the battery. This jumped from like 40 minutes to 20 minutes, and this went down a few minutes too when I plugged them both in. And while we're waiting on this, I kind of want to give my opinion on whether or not you should go all physical or digital, or, you know, embrace the key cards. There's been a lot of drama surrounding all this lately, and as an avid game collector, my personal opinion is if you like a game so much and you prefer to play it offline when you can, you want to feel the need to really own your system, then absolutely get physical, right? My rule of thumb for myself, I only get single player games on physical. And that's mostly true. I've gotten a few multiplayer ones off some sales as well as some indies, but that's kind of what the rule I like to keep for myself. Now for multiplayer games, right? I would rather have those be digital because you're most likely going to be switching to and back on the fly on your system anyways if you host a game party of sorts, right? And I don't want to keep getting up and having to switch the cart. So I try to buy a lot of multiplayer, split screen, local co-op games, all that on digital virtual carts. And then I buy the single player games on physical, or if it's a game I just really like and just want to own a physical copy of, that's when I go for it too. My opinion is I don't mind the game key carts. I probably wouldn't get a lot of them myself, but they are functioning similar to how PS5, Xbox Series discs, as well as previous generations before them function, where a lot of the times it's just a license to download the game. Maybe the disc has a little bit of data for the install, but I kind of treat them the same way as that. And again, I still apply the same rules that I've said for myself. It's up to you to use your own discretion. Just always be aware to always look at the box to see if it is a virtual game key card or if it's a download in a box, because apparently those exist for some reason. A lot of Nintendo first party titles, all of them in fact, are confirmed on the cart itself, so you don't have to worry about the first-party Nintendo titles. And a couple of third parties are starting to put their games on fully on the cart too. So I'm really happy for that, and I hope that movement keeps gaining momentum going forward. Okay, and after about 45 minutes later, I've completely moved over what I wanted to the microSD. I highly recommend doing this first before you move other games to the microSD card, just so you have the space to work with and you know exactly how much there is left on the card. And here comes the fun part, guys. So I've unboxed about 50 of the games from my collection that I need to play that's on my backlog. This is pretty much like 90% of my collection here. And I have about 50 physical game cartridges. So I have all of these ready to move onto my Switch 2. Alright, so I'm going to start putting in all the cartridges into my Switch one by one, and I'm just going to have to wait for it to download, and I'll see how big my collection is at the end of this video. So I want to fast forward to when I have all of this downloaded. Alright, so I have finished downloading everything after a few hours, and this is pretty much the majority of my collection all on my new Nintendo Switch 2 with the microSD express card installed. Granted, most of these are physical copies of the games, and maybe around 15 to 20% are digital. You can tell because you have the little card icon on the top that's blank. That means you need to either insert a physical, like it said, or you need to insert the virtual game card. But with that, let's see how much storage everything actually took. Even if you add the system memory and into the microSD Express, I pretty much have enough room to pretty much just, let's say, do all of this all the way down into my microSD Express card, and I would still have about 682 gigs free space left. And granted, yes, a lot of this is my physical collection, but that just gives me a lot of hope that microSD Express card will last me for a while. Hopefully, maybe even the next life of this console, maybe the next 6 to 8 years, who knows. Alright, and to do a quick, simple test to see if microSD Express is faster, I'm no speed test or anything, but I just wanted to test with one game that I have on my both systems. This is my original Switch. This is not my Switch 2. This is my original Switch, and I'm going to test Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on both systems. So, here we go. Alright, there was it loaded on this one. Now let's switch over to the Switch 2. Alright, so I'm on my Switch 2 now, okay? And I have Mario Kart 8 loaded here as well, so let's give it a shot. Mario Kart 8! That was so fast. And that was pretty much running off the microSD Express as well. And I can prove it to you guys by just showing you guys where it's at. Alright, and right here, as you can see, it is loaded on my microSD Express card. Now, if my whole library was full of virtual game cards, or maybe I'm fully a committed digital downloader, this might be a different story. This microSD card might have filled up, maybe even past halfway. Right? But even so, you're only seeing a limited amount of games from first party so far that are even hitting the 20 gigabyte mark. Now, if you're buying a lot of like third party games like Cyberpunk, for example, where it's like insanely huge, like up to 64 gigs per game, and maybe we'll see a couple more of that in the future, then yeah, even a 1 terabyte micro SD card might start to fill up, but I imagine you would be set for at least a couple of years in doing so. I think if you buy a 1 terabyte, you definitely don't have to worry for a while. Even a 512, I would argue, for most people, it is a very good amount of space to work with. Maybe 256 is on the lower end. I would only get it if you know that you only just want to double your storage, but otherwise, yeah, I would highly recommend getting a microSD express card for your Nintendo Switch 2. A really good place to find microSD cards at Express on a sale is Deku Deals. I highly recommend them. I use them personally. I'm not sponsored, but I do think they're a great deal tracker for that type of stuff. You can, of course, also set deal trackers on your other sites, such as Amazon or Walmart or GameStop, Best Buy, whatever. They all probably sell some version of microSD Express. As long as it's a legitimate copy, I recommend Lexar. They make pretty good microSD cards. I'm hoping SanDisk would expand to 1 terabyte, and who knows, maybe in the future we might see 1.5, even 2 terabyte microSD express cards, as we've been seeing some of that happen already in the regular microSD card space. So yeah, that was pretty much my quick video and review of the Lexar 1 terabyte microSD express card for the Switch 2. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully it was helpful. And yeah, if you want to continue seeing more Switch 2 content on this channel, as well as other tech content, please subscribe. We're trying to grow this channel. And thank you guys for watching.